Welcome back to Victor Liverpool Analyst. If you are watching this, you already know that Liverpool are never boring. Never. The Premier League title has been secured. The dust should be settling. But right now, at this very moment, the decisions being made at Anfield could define not just next season, but the next 5 years of this football club. And today, we are going to go through every single piece of news that matters, one by one, with no shortcuts and no noise, just the full picture. Today, we are covering 15 separate news stories and 2 in-depth reports. We are going to read exactly what has been said, and then I am going to give you my analysis on every single point. By the end of this video, you will understand where Liverpool stand heading into this summer, what the real risks are, and what the club needs to get right. So let us get straight into it. Before we go story by story, understand the stakes here. Liverpool won the Premier League title. That is a fact. But winning a title is one moment. Sustaining it is a completely different challenge. The club is now facing a squad rebuild at multiple positions simultaneously. The goalkeeper position is uncertain. The left-back position is under scrutiny. The captaincy question is unresolved. Injuries are piling up at the worst possible time, and the transfer window has not even opened officially. If Liverpool get these decisions wrong, the gap between them and their rivals will close fast. The evidence is right in front of us. If you want this level of analysis on every major Liverpool story this summer, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications, because this channel covers everything, and we leave nothing out. Now let us go through every story. Ibrahim Konate, contract update. What was reported? Ibrahim Konate is close to signing a new long-term deal at Anfield. That is the report. Now here is my analysis. This is genuinely significant news, and I want to make sure you understand why. Kelleher has been one of the most underrated players in Liverpool's squad over the past 2 seasons. When Van Dijk has had difficult moments, Konate has stepped in and delivered at the highest level. He is quick, he is powerful in the air, and he reads the game with a maturity that you simply do not expect from a player his age. Now, the key word in this report is close. It does not say the deal is done. It does not say the contract has been signed. It says close. That distinction matters. Liverpool have been in contract situations before where things appeared close and then took months to resolve. But the direction of travel here is positive, and the club will be very relieved if they can lock him down on a long-term basis. The reason this matters so much is context. Van Dijk is heading towards the final 12 months of his current contract. His future at the club remains an open question. If Liverpool lose Van Dijk and fail to secure Konate, they would suddenly face a significant shortage of proven quality at centre-back. Getting Konate tied down protects the club against that nightmare scenario. The situation is, this is exactly the kind of quiet, essential business Liverpool need to get done before the summer window opens. Secure the core, then add on top. Liverpool ticket pricing statement, what the club officially confirmed. Liverpool can confirm an update to its previously announced ticket pricing approach for future seasons. In March, the club confirmed a ticket pricing plan in which general admission ticket price increases would be limited to inflation for 3 seasons, while including the continued freeze on junior and local tickets at £9 and the expansion of the young adult category to include supporters up to the age of 24. Following further dialogue with its supporters board, the club can now confirm an inflationary increase of 3% to general admission tickets for season 2026 to 2027, followed by a price freeze for season 2027 to 2028. Further discussions will take place with the supporters board for future seasons. The club and supporters board will use the certainty of these seasons to seek longer-term alternative solutions across the game and explore commercial ideas with the supporters board in an attempt to avoid future ticket price increases and address issues around affordability and accessibility for future generations. The club is also pleased to confirm the implementation of a young adult section within the Anfield Road stand, with more details to follow. Liverpool believes that without wider progress on alternative solutions, future inflationary increases may still be required, including season 2028 to 2029, and will continue to engage with its supporters. Both the club and the supporters board are committed to exploring a longer-term solution that works in the interests of all. The club also remains committed to managing its cost challenges responsibly, giving advance notice to supporters and certainty to its own financial planning to remain competitive at the highest levels of football. That is the official statement. Here is my analysis. I want to be balanced about this. On one hand, a 3% increase is not a catastrophic jump. Inflation across the board has affected every sector of the economy, and Liverpool arguing that they are keeping increases at the inflation rate is a reasonable position. The freeze on junior and local tickets at £9 is genuinely fan-friendly, and the expansion of the young adult category to age 24 is a meaningful gesture towards accessibility. However, the real concern in that statement is the final paragraph. The club is openly flagging that season 2028 to 2029 could bring further increases if no alternative commercial solutions are found. That is the club essentially telling its own fan base, we cannot promise this stops here. The addition of a young adult section in the Anfield Road stand is a positive move, and it shows the club is at least thinking about long-term supporter engagement. But the broader affordability issue in English football is not going away, and Liverpool know that. The evidence suggests the club is trying to manage a difficult balance between competitive financial requirements and supporter relations. How they navigate the next few years on this issue will matter as much off the pitch as any transfer decision does on it. CAIMN, Kelleher, and Brentford. What was reported, Liverpool did not sell CAIM Kelleher last year because they thought he was not good enough to be Alisson's long-term successor. They sanctioned the move to Brentford because he was desperate to become a number one. There is no buyback clause in the deal. That is the reporting. Here is my analysis. This is a piece of information that changes how we should understand the Kelleher situation entirely. The narrative that existed around his departure was that Liverpool simply did not rate him highly enough. But the reality is quite different. Liverpool believed in Kelleher's quality. The issue was that he wanted to play first-team football as a number one, and Liverpool could not offer him that guarantee with Alisson ahead of him. The absence of a buyback clause is the most interesting detail here. It tells us that when Liverpool allowed that move to happen, they were not thinking about bringing him back. They viewed that chapter as closed. Whatever Kelleher achieves at Brentford, Liverpool have no automatic route to reclaim him. Now, here is why this matters going into this summer. There is now a significant question mark over Alisson's future at the club, and with Kelleher gone, Liverpool do not have a natural internal solution waiting in the wings. They need to act in the market, and that brings us directly to the next story. 5 goalkeeper options to replace Alisson. What was reported? There are 5 realistic options for Liverpool to replace Alisson this summer. The options listed are Georgi Mamadashvili, who is already at the club, Lucas Chevalier of Paris Saint-Germain, Emiliano Martinez of Aston Villa, Bart Verbruggen of Brighton, and Hove Albion, and Georgi Petrovic of Bournemouth. That is the report. Here is my analysis. Let us go through each name carefully because they are not equal options. Georgi Mamadashvili is already at Liverpool. He was purchased and loaned back to his previous club. The situation is, the club was always planning to bring him in as either a competitor or a successor to Alisson. His presence already on the books makes him the default first answer. Lucas Chevalier at Paris Saint-Germain is a name that has been growing in reputation. He is young, he is technically excellent, and the fact that he is at one of the biggest clubs in Europe at this stage of his career tells you something about his ceiling. Emiliano Martinez at Aston Villa is the most proven name on that list. World Cup winner, commanding presence, excellent with his feet. But the question is always going to be, what would Aston Villa accept for a goalkeeper of that status? And would Martinez himself want to move to a direct rival in the same league? Bart Verbruggen at Brighton has shown flashes of real quality, but Brighton are not a selling club by default, and his age and experience level make him more of a project than a ready-made solution. Georgi Petrovic at Bournemouth is an interesting profile. Consistent performer, good with his feet, but the jump from Bournemouth to Liverpool is enormous. The evidence suggests Mamadashvili is the most logical option because he is already theirs. But the club will clearly explore the market before confirming any direction. Florian Wirtz and Bastian Schweinsteiger. What was reported? Bayern Munich legend Bastian Schweinsteiger told a German publication that Liverpool teammates must give Florian Wirtz the ball as often as possible to unlock his full potential. Schweinsteiger said, if I were playing with Wirtz, I would simply give him the ball as often as possible because he needs the ball to make his game more dominant. That is the report. Here is my analysis. Schweinsteiger speaking on Wirtz in the context of Liverpool is fascinating. The fact that Wirtz is now at Liverpool and former legends of his previous clubs are offering tactical advice tells you how much attention this transfer has generated across Europe. Schweinsteiger's point is analytically sound. Wirtz is a player who operates best when he receives the ball in tight spaces and in rhythm. He needs touches, he needs involvement. If Liverpool use him sparingly or deploy him wide in a way that isolates him from the flow of play, they will not get the best from him. What this tells me is that Arne Slot's system needs to be adjusted around Wirtz, not the other way round. And Slot is an intelligent coach. He knows that. The integration of a player of Wirtz's quality is always a process, and this kind of outside perspective, even from a former rival legend, reinforces something the coaching staff already understands. Mickey van der Ven and Liverpool. What was reported, Spurs defender Mickey van der Ven would choose to sign for Liverpool over Manchester United without hesitation if both clubs were to table formal offers. The Dutchman is described as a self-confessed Red supporter who would prioritise Anfield above most other destinations. That is the report. Now here is my analysis. This is the kind of story that excites supporters but requires careful handling analytically. Player interest and actual transfer movement are two completely different things. The fact that Van der Ven is reportedly a Liverpool supporter and would choose them over Manchester United is interesting background information. But right now, this is described as what he would do if formal offers arrived. No formal offer has been confirmed in this report. What this does tell us is that Liverpool's pool as a destination club remains enormous. Players across Europe want to play there. That is a genuine competitive advantage in transfer negotiations. Van der Ven at Tottenham has shown quality when fit. He is fast, he is composed on the ball, and he fits the modern pressing defender profile that Liverpool have built around. If the situation develops into something more concrete, it would be worth watching closely. Hassan Al-Yuda bid from Liverpool, what was reported. Liverpool are preparing a €40 million bid for RB Leipzig midfielder Hassan Al-Yuda. However, the offer is expected to fall short of Leipzig's valuation of the highly rated German youngster. That is the report. Here is my analysis. €40 million is a significant bid, but the report is clear that Leipzig's asking price is higher. This is not unusual. German clubs, particularly Leipzig, have shown over many years that they will hold their valuation line and not buckle under initial offers. Ouedraogo is a German youth international who has had a standout season. The profile makes sense for Liverpool. Young, energetic, technically capable in midfield. But the gap between a €40 million bid and Leipzig's valuation suggests this is the opening stage of a negotiation, not a deal close to completion. The situation is, Liverpool may need to decide whether they are prepared to go significantly beyond that initial figure, or whether this is simply a market-testing exercise. Leipzig know their players have value, and they know clubs like Liverpool have budgets to work with. Story 8. Eli Junior Krupi, tracked by Liverpool. What was reported? Liverpool is tracking Eli Junior Krupi after his standout season. While Bournemouth would prefer to keep the striker, their track record indicates they will consider a sale if the financial terms are favourable. That is the report. Here is my analysis. Tracking is the key word here. This is not a bid. This is not an offer. This is Liverpool doing what good clubs do, watching the market, identifying emerging talent, and keeping options open. Krupi has impressed at Bournemouth this season. Bournemouth want to keep him, which tells you they believe he still has development value at their level. But as the report makes clear, their history shows they will sell at the right price. The question for Liverpool is whether Krupi fits the striker profile they need right now. If the club is looking for a ready-made number 9, a young striker still developing his game may not be the priority. But if this is about long-term planning and squad depth, monitoring Krupi makes complete sense. NX Liverpool captain question. What was reported, Liverpool will need to appoint a new club captain at some point in the not-too-distant future, but who should inherit the armband from Virgil van Dijk? That is the framing of the story. Here is my analysis, which I will expand further when we cover the full article later in this video. The captaincy question is one that Liverpool cannot afford to get wrong. The armband at this club carries enormous weight. The names who have worn it before carry a legacy that is felt throughout the entire football world. Getting the appointment right is about more than who shouts the loudest in the dressing room. It is about who the players respect, who the supporters connect with, and who can carry the burden of leadership when things get difficult. We will go deeper on this shortly. Danny Murphy on Kerkez and Lewis Hall. What was reported? Former Liverpool player Danny Murphy claimed the £40 million signing of Milos Kerkez has not worked and urged Liverpool to sign Newcastle's Lewis Hall instead. Murphy said, I think they need to bring someone in who can really compete and play and not be an understudy to Kerkez. I think they need to go and get somebody who is established and of real quality that can come into the team, push Kerkez, and probably overtake him if I'm being honest. The Kerkez signing has not really worked. To be honest, depending on what happens with the Newcastle situation, I am a huge fan of Lewis Hall. I think he is a wonderful player, a brilliant footballer, And when it comes to one-on-one defending, he is very, very good. That is what Murphy said. Here is my analysis. Danny Murphy is a former Liverpool player, and his opinion carries some weight with supporters. But I want to be careful here, because there is a difference between an honest assessment and an overreaction. A £40 million signing not delivering immediately is not unusual. Fullbacks in particular need time to adapt to a new system. The physicality of the Premier League, the tactical demands of Arne Slot's system, the adjustment period, all of these take time. Murphy's suggestion of Lewis Hall is interesting. Hall at Newcastle has shown real quality. His crossing, his ability to defend 1 versus 1, and his work rate make him an attractive option. But the situation at Newcastle and what they would accept for Hall is a different conversation entirely. What I will say is this. Competition at left-back is important. Whether that comes from bringing in Hall or from a player like Cambiaso that we will discuss shortly, Liverpool need quality options behind Kerkez rather than a situation where he is unchallenged. Competition drives improvement. Always. Szoboszlai and Gravenberch as future leaders. What was reported? Internally, there is hope that some of the current Liverpool players will grow into leadership roles. Szoboszlai has the potential to become a true leader who refuses to compromise, while Gravenberch is expected to develop into a quieter leadership figure. That is the report. Here is my analysis. This is really encouraging detail from inside the club. Leadership does not have to come from one person. The best teams in the world have multiple leadership profiles. You need the passionate, demanding voice. You need the calm, experienced presence. And it sounds like Liverpool are beginning to identify exactly those two roles in Szoboszlai and Gravenberch. Szoboszlai refusing to compromise is exactly the kind of mentality you need from a captain or vice-captain. He demands the highest standards from himself, and that energy spreads. Gravenberch as a quieter figure is equally valuable. Sometimes a calm, controlled voice in the dressing room during difficult moments is more powerful than the loudest one. The situation is, Liverpool are not waiting for Van Dijk to leave before thinking about leadership succession. They are building it now, and that is smart, long-term thinking. Injury update ahead of Chelsea. What was reported? Liverpool's injury list remains extensive heading into the Chelsea match. Mohamed Salah, Alexander Isak, Alisson and Georgi Mamardashvili all missed Wednesday's training session, while Ibrahim Konate was also absent. That is the report. Here is my analysis. This is genuinely alarming. Look at those names again. Salah, Isak, Alisson, Mamardashvili and Konate. That is not a list of fringe players. That is some of the most important individuals in the squad, all absent from training at the same time. The goalkeeper situation alone is concerning. If both Alisson and Mamardashvili are unavailable, who is between the posts against Chelsea? That is a question Liverpool need an answer to right now. Salah missing is significant. He has been central to everything Liverpool do going forward this season. His presence is not just about goals and assists. It is about the fear he creates in opposition defences, which creates space for others. And Konate, just as we were discussing his new contract being close, he is absent from training. The timing is not ideal. The evidence suggests that Liverpool are heading into a very challenging fixture against Chelsea in a position of real vulnerability. How they manage this in the short term will test the depth of the squad and the tactical flexibility of the coaching staff. Who will succeed Van Dijk as Liverpool captain? Now, let me take you through the full analysis on this captaincy question. The situation is, Virgil van Dijk turns 35 in July and has around 12 months remaining on his current contract. He lifted the Premier League title aloft last season. He is a giant of this club. But the reality for the club is that planning for life after Van Dijk needs to happen now, not when he walks out the door. Former Liverpool defender Glenn Johnson has made his position very clear on who should take the armband. He points directly to Dominic Szoboszlai. Johnson's reasoning is precise and worth taking seriously. He argues that Szoboszlai has been at the club long enough to understand its culture and its expectations. He has played out of position multiple times to serve the team's needs. He wears his emotions openly on the pitch. He cares about winning. And Johnson draws a specific comparison to Steven Gerrard, saying Szoboszlai has the kind of characteristics that Gerrard had. The willingness to sacrifice his own performance when the team needed it. The heart on the sleeve approach. The competitive fire. Now, I want to add my own analytical layer here because Johnson's assessment raises a secondary question that matters enormously. Will Szoboszlai even be at Anfield long enough to wear the armband? His current contract runs through to the end of the 2027 to 2028 season. No extension has been agreed, and interest from Real Madrid has not gone away. Johnson himself acknowledged the complexity of this when pressed. He pointed out that Real Madrid are an iconic club, and it is difficult for any player to completely ignore that level of interest. He also noted that as a contract gets closer to its final stages, or when elite clubs show genuine interest, the situation becomes very competitive for Liverpool to manage. Here is my assessment. Szoboszlai's quality as a captain candidate is not in question. His leadership instincts, his emotional investment in the club, and his on-pitch behaviour all support Johnson's argument strongly. But the captaincy decision cannot be made in isolation from the contract situation. If Liverpool are serious about giving Szoboszlai the armband, they need to also be serious about locking him down on a long-term deal. One decision cannot happen without the other. Separately, the report also touches on the internal view about Szoboszlai and Gravenberch as emerging leaders. There is hope within the club that Szoboszlai becomes a fierce, uncompromising leader and that Gravenberch develops into a calmer presence. That dual leadership model is exactly what successful clubs build over time. The legacy at Liverpool in this role is extraordinary. The names that have carried this responsibility: Emlyn Hughes, Phil Thompson, Graham Souness, Alan Hansen, Ian Rush, Steven Gerrard, Jordan Henderson, and now Van Dijk. Each one left a mark on the history of the club. Whoever follows must be worthy of that line. Getting this decision right is not just a matter of squad management. It is a statement about where Liverpool are going and who they trust to lead them there. Closing analyses and summary. Final section. Let me bring everything together now, because this is where the full picture becomes clear. Liverpool are a club that has just won the Premier League title. That is a fact. But they are simultaneously facing a list of challenges that would test any club at any level. The goalkeeper position requires a decision. Alisson's future is unclear. Mamardashvili is already there. The club is exploring multiple options. They need to get this right because the goalkeeper is the foundation of everything. The left-back position needs reinforcement. Kerkez is the current first choice, but the depth is thin. Cambiaso is being monitored. Murphy is pushing for Lewis Hall. This is a competition for solutions, and Liverpool cannot afford to enter next season under-resourced in that area. The midfield needs a specialist holding player. The Gravenberch situation has shown that relying on one player in a position as demanding as holding midfielder is a risk. Mac Allister's form has not been consistent. Endo is not trusted in the biggest moments. This is the most urgent squad need of all. The captaincy question will define the next era of Liverpool football. Van Dijk is heading towards the end of his contract. Szoboszlai is the leading internal candidate, but his own contract situation and the speculation linking him with Real Madrid mean this cannot be left unresolved. Konate's contract situation is moving in a positive direction, and that is a genuine boost. If the club can secure him long-term, it removes one major concern. And then there are the injury concerns ahead of Chelsea. Salah, Isak, Alisson, Mamardashvili and Konate all missing training is a serious situation. How Liverpool manage that fixture will tell us a great deal about the depth and character of this squad. The evidence suggests that Liverpool are a well-run club that plans ahead, thinks carefully and executes when the moment is right. The inquiry for Cambiaso, the monitoring of Krupi, the internal development of leadership in Szoboszlai and Gravenberch, these are not random decisions. They are connected pieces of a bigger plan. But plans only succeed when they are executed correctly. And execution requires making the right calls at the right times. This summer will be one of the most consequential transfer windows in Liverpool's recent history. That is the full picture. That is every story covered in full. And that is why you watch Victor Liverpool Analyst. If this video helped you understand what is really happening at Anfield right now, please hit that subscribe button, leave a comment below telling me which transfer story you are most focused on this summer, and share this video with any Liverpool supporter who wants real analysis and not just headlines. I will see you in the next one.